Start. Thank you so much. This is the third episode of Maliciously Benevolent. And I have Monique Gray here, and she's going to be sharing her story. And so, thank you, Monique, for showing up and, sharing your story and giving your time to us.
Well, hi everyone. I do usually go online by Monique Lynelle. That's my first and middle name. And so with coaching, I'll be Coach ML. And so like just like my website is Monique Lynn, and then it's a dash and then ELLE. So it gives the
Oh,
space so people pronounce it right. Because sometimes people are like, line is not line, it's Lindell. So
Lynelle.
anyway,
Yes.
hi. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing because a lot of people just say, yeah, it's okay. You say it however you want. And I'm like, no, stand up for yourself. So, thank you.
Uh,
Yes. So, we got to really meet each other through Missing Pieces, and that's a nonprofit where it's helping pregnancy, helping women through pregnancy loss and even men now. And I got to meet you and talk to you and hear your story, and this is why you're here today because you have been through so much, and your trials and tribulations got you to where you are, and it's helping you become a more powerful coach and in your craft. And so I would love to share you and your story to our audience, and then let's go from there. And I believe you have a story or a book to read to us.
so it's a short story, and I'll just let me pull it up so I can get right into it. Let's see here. Give me just a second. It comes up. Okay, it came up. All right. So this story is called What If? And it's a short story. And I actually won an award for the National Veterans Creative Arts Competition for this actual story. Okay, it's called What If? Today, I want to take you on a journey, a story of a life with potential, joy, happiness, and purpose. There was a little girl that grew up with her mother and father, happy and healthy. This little girl was athletic, strong, and was very talented in the arts. She danced, sang, acted, and played lots of sports like soccer, basketball, and ran track. She was a beautiful redhead, light skinned African American girl growing up and becoming a nice young lady. As she grew up, she always would say that she was going to accomplish a lot and be a household name for her work in the entertainment field. She was a bright young lady, smart as a whip, and extremely determined to do her best at everything. When she turned 18, she pushed her friend out of the way of a car before it hit her. Her friend thanked her and she replied, "You would have done the same for me." As she got older, she graduated from college with honors and was an All American in one of the sports she played. She decided to help feed the homeless and joined groups that helped others in the community. Her heart was like gold, and she was a genuine person. She started to speak at events for young women and became a motivational speaker for women's groups and youth organizations. She was a real go getter. After getting her degree, she went on to medical school and became a doctor, a physical therapist to be exact. Her life was just getting started. As time went on, the young lady married a man that had been friends with her in medical school, and they went on to have a few children, and she continued to be active in her community and was well known and respected for her work with her church and other community service organizations. There were so many people that called called her for advice. So many athletes got their careers back on track because of her expertise, and she was a joy to be around. Her life and accomplishments did not happen overnight, and everything was not easy for her. As she lost a few close relatives, got depressed, and hit a very low point in her life, she was resilient because of her belief in God and the support of her parents and friends. However, she wanted to travel, so she traveled abroad during college and made sure she took lots of pictures because her mom always said that the experience is about the memories you hold on to and the journey you encounter. As time went on, she battled with her relationship with God and how her moving around as a teen affected her relationships. But she was strong, just not committed to God like she should have been at one point. But the friend that she ended up marrying helped her realize that she was an awesome person, but God was the it factor that was missing, and he could make her life whole again. He explained that God could put back together those broken pieces if she would have faith in him. Those two became closer through their belief in God and prayers for each other. The couple experienced miscarriages, but prayed and had faith that God would bring them children. And as time went on, they had 5 children and counting. God was restoring time back to them, and that man loved her with all his heart. The young lady became a better person by being with him, and they were dedicated to each other in the process of marriage. After medical school, the young lady was commissioned as an Army officer. She was a part of ROTC for years while in college and then served on active duty for a few years after college. Since she was a doctor, she stayed stateside and helped wounded warriors that came back from war. Her and her soon to be husband were still just courting at the time. But she helped so many soldiers learn how to walk again, how to utilize their prosthetic legs and arms, even learn how to eat again. It was a hard job, yet rewarding. People loved and appreciated her spirit and always wanted her around. But she was always on the go, go, go and could not get close to everyone. You might be thinking, this story sounds almost too good to be true. And in fact, it is, because my daughter only lived a day and she has no more life to live. I took bits and pieces from my own life, added some greatness, and took out some strife. I gave her the good parts of life that I never saw because only a day my daughter saw. It's hard to say whose life would have changed. It's hard to know the person she would have become. There's no way to know how her voice could have sung. For those few short hours while she lived, she came way too early. But what I would give to see her grow up and have her life to live. I wish I could see all that she had to give, but there's no way to rewind this story. She died as a baby because she was born prematurely. I can't help but to daydream while writing this essay about how things could be and stories she could have had, the talents, the gifts, the strengths, and her children, the love of her life, and the challenges too. But instead, I am left with what if? What if my daughter, what, what if my daughter, Miracle Linnea, had lived? Who would she be? How would she laugh? What would she see? Who would her friends be? What would her favorite what would be her favorite color? All I know is that I would still love her. In life, there are ups and downs too, but we have a chance and a choice to live it the way we do. But this little miracle went back to God. However, She still touched my life. Living for 3 hours is true, but she touched my life forever and will forever be remembered. What if my daughter could have been a doctor, a lawyer, the president of the United States of America? What if, what if, what if she lived?
Wow. You're
Let
still,
me come back on here.
yay. Wow. That
Uh,
story, you took me through a roller coaster of emotions, and that story just, I really love how you wrote that because it's sharing and showing how the majority of the world seems to put on this, hey, this is how my life is. It's all great. It's all beautiful. And then a lot of the trials and tribulations have been left out, and you brought it back home, and you brought it back home really deep. And so yes, that, I think that really encompasses a lot of women who have gone through losses, especially pregnancy loss. In that way, it's those are the questions that we probably, the majority, all of us probably think those thoughts is what if. And
yeah,
wow, that book is so short and yet so powerful. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I just want to take a moment because I'm getting emotional.
Yeah. Um, when I went back to read it, like after some time,
Hmm.
I had a moment, and I shed tears sometimes for my daughter. That was just one of my miscarriages, but it's the only one I gave birth and then lost her.
Hmm.
So miscarriage can happen in many different ways, but to have to give birth and then to know there's only a few hours is a different kind of feeling, right? But the feeling of a pregnancy loss, that you wanted the baby, you wanted the child to have a life, is really one of those things you do think about. What if they had lived, and what would they have been, and you know just so many questions, right?
Hmm.
But then it's like, I tried to grasp how the unconditional love that I had for her and those moments, and while I was pregnant, when I felt her kicking and different stuff like that, I can't really ever forget those times. And it was very special to me for me to hear her heartbeat the first time, and certain stuff I just won't ever forget. And it was so special to me. And so my heart goes out to other women, you also, like, that have had a pregnancy loss, because it's something that has been a part of you. And I understand that men also have feelings in reference to their children passing, or the woman that they're with not carrying to term. But when you feel a life in you, it's a little bit different, because they're holding on to your life source as theirs. And it really reminds me of my relationship with God, and how I sort of cling to him as the energy that I need to keep going. It's just like a charger for a phone, but not at the same time. It's like, at some point you're going to need to charge your phone, and you need the correct charger, but God is always the correct charger for me. And it's helped me to my relationship with God has helped me to overcome some things and be able to process the hard parts, right? Because none of us are perfect, none of us are some floating being, like we're so great and know everything. But me being connected to God and learning his scriptures and being connected to those principles helps me to really process my stuff. And when it becomes too much, when I'm weak, I know that he is strong, and his spirit can comfort me. And I know a lot of us need that because it's like, where am I going to get this strength when you just like are on the floor and you're crying and it hurts so bad, you know? And I feel like God mended my heart back together and gave me deliverance in that way because I felt like this is too much for me and I had to give it over to God. And so, yes, I shed tears and yes, I get sad, but I want to encourage people that life does go on after these losses and you want to make your life count, right? So you don't want to give up on yourself because somebody else is gone, because you would want them to do something with their life if they were here. So it's like we still have an opportunity to do something with ourselves. So why not do something positive for someone else or try to change the narrative of just letting it overwhelm us all the time? What are we going to do with the things that we do know, we do learn, and we can process? You know, I want I want to help people process their stuff and also have joy because it's understated. Like, you know, we can have all of these different nuances in coaching, right? It's so many different rhythms and uh, different procedures and so many things, right? But joy is something that it's like, it's a fruit of the Holy Spirit, and you really you can't buy it anywhere. It's different than happiness because you get it when you're sad or like when you're down or when bad things happen and when good things happen. It's not something that it just goes away. It's something that's deep down. You can still get a belly laugh, even though you've been going through crazy stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, because you just look at things differently. Like, I still can laugh at certain things, you know,
Mhm.
now. Like, I know like this is a serious subject, right? But years after, because she was born in 2009, my daughter. So uh years later I could laugh at this, but at first I couldn't. So when my daughter was born, because they gave me an epidural, they told me she was going to come early. When it was time to come, I was literally asleep. When it was time for her to come, I had fallen asleep because I had been waiting hours, right? So when it was time, I felt like a jolt, like it felt like she kicked me. And I was like, it's time. I opened my legs and literally it was like on Martin. I don't know if you ever saw the episode where the lady was pregnant and the baby just
Just
flew out of the, oh my gosh, my baby came out flying and she was kicking. And it was kind of funny when I look back at it, like she was really flying like into the doctor's arms. And it was like kind of funny looking back. But it's not funny when it's happening because you don't know. It's so emotional. It's so many things happening. You want your baby to be okay, right? But looking back, I was like, my baby was flying and kicking. I don't know what she was thinking, but you know, it was just like really funny later. So stuff like that is like personal things I can laugh at because I was there and I know, but you know, I was like, she was this strong little baby. She tried, even though she was so early, you know. And but yeah, it's things that we go through in life. And I just feel like I want to encourage people to try to do things that will bring smiles on your face, you know, and it's almost like a smile a day, you know, can help the gloom go away. Because even when you're around other people that are positive or just, you know, sort of make you laugh about different things, it helps you to feel more lighthearted because these are heavy things that we're going through. And so we don't need somebody constantly tearing us down and bringing us more stress. So I've learned that I just need to stress less. And so I started doing line dancing. It's so fun. It's
line.
exercise in a fun way, right? And then I started doing aerobics. I started going back to skating. I'm still working on my turns, but I can go forward pretty good. I could go backwards a little bit, but it's sort of like, oh, girl, get it together. So I can't really, I'm trying to work on going straight and then turning smoothly and then going backwards. But it's another form to exercise, but it helps me to not stress as much. And so I've been trying to find ways to do that. And then that would, you know, lighten my heaviness of my life because there's so many things that are so like in your face.
Mhm.
Um, so those are things that I'm doing to like as coping mechanisms to help me with different stressful things. Do you have questions for me?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on your activities that you do, like all of the extra creative ways of movement and helping your body move through the the circumstances and the life situations and the losses that we've been through because it is very heavy. And so you moving through it, I usually tend to tell my clients and people to shift that perspective a little bit. And like that, as you were telling me, I was seeing you literally shedding off some of that pain, some of that worry as
Yeah,
you're moving and practicing and getting your body into flow again, because whenever we go through those losses and challenges, our body just wants to shut down and all of that energetic weight is just on us. So as you're moving, you're allowing it to shed off. And so that's usually what I explain to people, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess I have to. I was like, well, you get to do these things, right? You get to get up and take care of yourself and allow movement to start flowing through your body again, because your body's still working fine. It's just here, you know?
yeah,
And as long as we can start slowly aligning the mind to come to terms with what's happened and process it effectively, then yes, that's the way to flow it. So yeah, I love that you shared that piece, because a lot of people, they said, yeah, so do I just go walking? Yes and no, depending on the way that they work, right? How their brain ticks. If they're a thinker and they overthink, telling a thinker and overthinker to go walk, guess what they do?
you're gonna think some more while you're walking, for
So that's
sure.
why I'm like, no, 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 no. You get to do something way more creative, way more effort and focus, because it gets you to stop thinking and do, right? And so you skating and doing those things, it requires your focus. So you don't have time to think anymore. It's
Right,
like, oh, do I
exactly.
bust my butt or do I?
Right. And I also picked up on painting. I find it very relaxing. I don't do it all the time, but I've done it a few times. I've gone to a paint bar where they have an instructor and they're like going through a whole class of people, and we're doing the same painting, but everybody's comes out different, even though you're like following the same steps. But then I've done some on my own. When I've been on vacation, I went by the side of the pool and I just put it on, and it has the little music in the background, and I can like keep rewinding the parts that I need and then follow, just had my paint out, and it was so relaxing. And it really came out pretty good. So I was like, yes, I'll do this, again. So excuse me, I got a cough. Yeah, but it's something that I picked up, and it's just helps me to focus on something other than everything that's immediately going on in my life. Um, and so that's something that you mentioned, like you when I'm skating, like you have to focus on that, or you can fall. It's like it puts your focus somewhere else. That's the same thing with the line dancing. The reason why I like it is, one, we get to hear music, right?
Mhm.
But when you're learning the steps, you do have to focus on those, so it sort of puts things outside of the class, right? So you're like, okay, I gotta focus on this step, and then it helps you to feel lighter already, because it's like, I'm not thinking about what I was thinking about before. So when you leave, you almost feel relieved, and it's not even um something that you plan. That's not what I planned when I went there. I was just like, this will be a fun event. But then I kept doing it because of that factor, and it helps me to de-stress. So
You know what it helps you do as well is to be very present in the moment. It
yeah.
forces you, or else you're gonna bust your ass.
Exactly. Exactly. You're just gonna fall or you're gonna bump into somebody because
Yeah.
as the class fills up, you have people next to you. If you do the wrong turn, you're going to hit them or bump into somebody or, fall like you said. So
Yes, it's
yeah.
yeah, so that's really good to a good way to get back in the body because what me personally going through the loss and trauma myself, it's really helping people to get back into their body because they don't feel safe in their body.
Right.
When they're starting to learn how to do that, it's very clumsy. It's almost like we're working with a baby again, and we really are because the loss and the trauma jumbles our brain in a way, right? And our nervous system gets all haywired, and so we're like a baby again. So it's being handheld and being able to help and guide people where they're at. And just like I believe I read this too. It's when you push people, maybe I read it through you or something, and I read it everywhere else. The more we push people, a lot of the personal development and the coachings and stuff like that out there, they push, right? And sometimes that pushing, it works for people who are actively ready to change and grow and all that stuff. Yet the individuals who are going through trauma or they're still recovering through it, when they are put in those environments, it's actually doing the reverse, the opposite for them. And I learned that the hard way because I went through the personal development and training and all that stuff when I was just fresh from my miscarriage. So
Yeah.
I was like a little guppy listening to everyone and going about everyone's way, like following everyone who's seems stronger and they got their stuff together. Yet, as I was getting stronger, I realized no, I needed to stay still and stop listening to everyone outside of me because that was a time to start learning to listen to myself and know myself more because they have no idea how to work with someone who's been through, trauma like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really interesting to see how the world of professional development is probably starting to shift as we are recovering
Yeah.
as as us coaches who've gone through these things and we recover and we're like wow there's another piece to this because I used to be the coach who was like no let's go come on you got to do this right now and then now I'm like okay where are you how are you feeling what's really going on and then that helps people to grow substantially
Good.
faster and
Yeah.
stronger. And so I think I wanted to say that because um, the duality and dynamic of our conversations is always like this. You bring up something, I'm like, oh, there's that, and I wanted to
Yeah.
highlight that because it's something that is really helpful for individuals to know that some of the personal development stuff is not for them at the time, and they think they're ready for it and it does the opposite. And they end up
Yeah.
saying, why isn't it working for me? Why am I spending so much money? They're spending money and they're making money. Why am I not? So it's to show that that's why there's coaches like yourself and myself is to help people to process these things. So that way when they go do these, you know, events like Tony Robbins or Brene
Mhm.
Brown, those kind of things, they're excelling in those spaces instead of
Right.
regressing. So I just wanted to bring that up because I was like, hey, people, figure this out and take it step by step. Stop pushing
Yeah.
it.
To process your stuff is something that's like that's my thing because I waited almost 13 years. So in 2022 I got pregnant again and I went through IVF and I um I was pregnant with twins and I miscarried at 9 weeks and I ended up getting the chromosomes tested and everything because I was like, what happened this time? Like it should have been okay. One of the twins was growing on more of a regular scale, and the other one, the heartbeat was slower most of the time. And they were like, that this might be a case of a vanishing twin. I had never heard of that. And I was like, what is that? So they explained that sometimes in the early part of people's pregnancies, one twin might not grow or might not be on the same level as the other one. So they might meet their demise, but the other child might still progress. Um, I didn't think that that would happen because of the way my babies were postured. They were so very close to each other. And I was like, when one is going, the other might not. But I just was trying to stay optimistic. I didn't know what to think. Um, and I'm just not sure what actually happened, but I definitely think it was a heart thing. And I had an allergic reaction. I had to go to the ER and they gave me something. But what they gave me was supposed to be okay. But the next day when I got an ultrasound, both of their heartbeats had stopped. So I was like, is is what they gave me something that could have hurt me? And the other doctor said, well, what they prescribed on here couldn't. But I was just wondering, did they give me something wrong? You know what I mean? Because it was just the day after, and I was like really sort of taken for a loop. But I had started the stress relief coach program before I got pregnant. I totally stopped, gave myself time to sort of process, and that's why I ended up finishing it last year. I totally put it on hiatus. I
Mm.
was really like, it sort of brought me all the way back to 2009 with my daughter and some of the unresolved feelings that I had. It was very different. I had grown a lot already, but I still needed to process this new thing, um, and grieve my babies. So I gave myself that time and that grace. I took off work. I used FMLA. Um, I wasn't the same for a little bit because I was the person that was like doing the birthday celebrations at work, and I was having little events for the team, and I worked with program managers, um, and I didn't feel like doing that for a minute. For a few months, I just was like, no, no. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to like. I just wanted to get through the night. I kept waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every night. So I was taking Benadryl. I was trying to I was trying to get edibles or something that could make me go to sleep. I just was like, of course I didn't want to overdo anything because I never been that person that even wanted to take medicine more than I needed to. Um because I just don't want to get addicted to anything. However, I was going back to back and I was like, this Benadryl might help me go to sleep, but something else might help me. And because I would wake up and sit up and I'd be like this, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just wide awake, just
Wow.
and then I would like start crying, or like have the cry to get back to sleep. So the medicine would help me to stay asleep through the night and stuff like that. And so once I was able to, sort of process my stuff with that, I went to counseling again for myself. I
Mm.
went to a counselor. She was helping me deal with different, things in this process again, right? And I needed that. Like straight up. I had quite a few sessions and she checked in with me and we discussed real stuff and goals and different things that I wanted to do. And I needed that. I needed somebody else to lean on. And that's what I feel like some coaches and counselors and therapists need to know, that sometimes they need somebody too. You don't have to be strong for the whole earth. It's like you you're strong for other people and you don't want to necessarily lean on your clients, but it doesn't mean that you don't need another coach or another counselor at some point in time for yourself, to help to build you up and encourage you too. So I was like, yeah, I want to help other people, but that has to pause right now because I have to take care of myself. And I learned that self-care is something that all of us need, So you can't really preach it or, try to encourage someone else, take care of yourself, and then you don't do it. And then it's like, well, you're about to crash because you're doing everything for everybody else, but you're not taking care of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's what I had to take the time to do. And then I finished the course last year. I went back to it. And so I was excited about that.
Wow.
Yeah, getting through it. And it really helped because it talked about some really deep things to do with chronic stress and different kind of stress disorders, and how it can really affect your life and your actual well-being in your body, like, and other different ailments could come from it. So it was something I really needed for myself, and it helps me to process my own stress. And one thing I want to share about the book I had, it was called Stress Less. And what is the author's name? Oh gosh. I can literally see his face, but can't think of the name. But the book is called Stress Less.
Okay.
And it was a part of the curriculum that for my program. And the one part of it that the doctor shared in the book is talking about worrying, right? And he shared this story about a man that he was trying to, like, I guess, have a discussion with. So he went to meet this guy, and the guy goes to, like, he came out of the house, and he goes by the side of the house and looks like he's hanging up something. It was like, and then he went into the house when he was going into the house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So he looked like he hung up something when he was going into the house, right? And then in the morning when he saw him, he went back to the same place and looked like he was picking something up, like how you would pick something off, like a tree. And so the man, the doctor that's telling the story is like, okay, mister, like, man, so what is it that you're doing when you go over to the side and you look like you're picking something up and you're putting it down when you're going into the house? So he said, oh, that's my worry tree. I was like, oh man, what is this about to be about? So the guy says, because I have a bunch of cares and things that are going on in my life every day. And when I go into to be with my family, I I'm hanging up my worries on the tree so that I'm not taking them into my family, into our family time, because I don't want to worry them about my cares and worries of my day. So he said, I go back to it each day because I have to pick back up my cares of the world and my everything, but I want to leave it outside so that I'm not bringing them that stress. So I'm not bringing them those worries that are on my mind. And I thought that was profound because a lot of times we have so much on our mind, and we sometimes bring it to the people that are closest to us, and some of them can't necessarily handle it, like your kids or like your spouse. They're dealing with other stuff too, but everything that's in your head, if you just dump it on them when you get in the house, it's sort of like, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let somebody experience you instead of your problems, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how it was explained. I thought that was so deep, and it was very mature of the man to say, okay, I'm not going to affect my family with all of my worries. I'll pick those up another time. And I was like, that's a different outlook. So it was really cool. So it was a story that stuck with me from the class.
That's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
there's another perspective to that story, right? To where some people don't actually share what's going on, and then they end up pretending like everything's fine, yet the people in their lives feel everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
there's
should be a
those.
balance.
There's the balance of, okay, hey, recognizing that I do have worries and communicating. I've put my worries aside and letting, it's not that we have to have a sign on our head or forehead saying that, hey, I have worries, hey, I have stresses, hey, I've gone through losses. It's more
Right.
of how do we be human again and communicate, verbally communicate these things with one another and just be able to connect and say, hey, I'm going through a rough patch right now, or
Yeah.
I'm going through an anniversary or memory right now. So just give me a moment. People don't do that. They're just like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm
Yeah.
fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Everything's fine. And it's burned. Even
Yeah, and communication is key, especially with your close circle or loved ones. I just think it's timing, and everything is not for everybody.
right.
So, sometimes you want to keep certain things near and dear because you don't want to put that burden on somebody else, but it depends on who that is, right?
Right.
And then somebody that's close to you, you might need to let them know so that they won't think it's them and something that they did when it's really something you're dealing with and you're internalizing, but you're like I might need a minute, or like I've had to tell people sometimes, like if they called me and it's the anniversary of something, or like this past holiday was harder for me. I didn't plan on it being that way, but it was like I sort of missed my parents because both of them are deceased. And and then I was like, I don't have any parents, I'm not married anymore, so I'm divorced, and I don't have any children. And I just was it was like feeling like it was sort of closing in on me. But a lot of times, like what I've been told from different counselors is like, plan for the days, plan for the holidays, like plan what you're going to do, so that, or for the different birth dates or the different anniversaries of, so that you won't be caught off guard, like sort of have a plan, like what are you going to do that day. And I've done that in the past, but not every time. And for Thanksgiving, I went to see family. I was invited some places around the holidays for Christmas time, but I didn't want to go. I didn't feel okay. I felt like being quiet. I felt like just being introspective. I felt a little melancholy. Um, and I didn't want to ooze that onto anybody. But I had to be real with myself. Like, I'm really not feeling this. I really don't want to drive that far right now. I really don't want to, do the extra right now. And I had to be okay with that, like giving myself a minute. And sometimes we have to do those things. And that's part of self-care too, saying, okay, I don't feel like being smiley or entertaining, and that's my usual personality.
Yes.
So I just was like, no, I want to sit here, I want to eat something, and I don't want to drive forever.
I'm
I
gonna
did
stay
that for
put.
Thanksgiving.
That's
Like, give me
awesome.
a minute, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, I'm so grateful that you shared that because so many people are just like, no, I gotta push through this. I gotta fake it. And yes, there's a certain extent of that. And yet, no, there's also, really listening to yourself and really paying attention to, okay, is there an anniversary? Is there something that's going on? Like, is my body remembering something that I'm consciously not remembering? Right. And so it's going through that inventory list of, okay, it's almost, like baby steps. Everything is, you're going through the manual of the day of
right.
yourself for the day. And so it's almost like as we go through these losses and trials and tribulations and we recover and we rehabilitate ourselves, we create a new manual for the new you that you get to, juggle and work with and deal with. And it's all the aspects of our personalities that show up the most when we've gone through these losses
Yeah,
and stuff. So yeah, I love that you shared that.
thank you. I think me keeping it real with myself and with God and with others has helped me in life in general. But sometimes I feel like I do need certain other people um that I can trust with certain stuff. Like we have this in common, right? That we have had a loss. Some other people haven't experienced that. So they might be a good person, they might be nice, they might be able to offer even a prayer, right? But sometimes they don't have that understanding. And I don't want everybody to have it because that's I wouldn't wish that on anybody, right? But when someone does, it might be a more open line for you to talk to them about, like, I was remembering this today, and you might be able to be like, I get it, you know,
Yeah.
and someone else wouldn't get it. They would just be like, okay, I'll pray for you or something, like, what do you want me to do? They don't know what to say sometimes. And
Mhm.
when you get it, you're like, so, you know, do you want to talk about it? Like,
Mhm.
you
Just
just,
giving space and
they're
ask.
different. It's just you show up different. And sometimes you do need that because prayer is great, but to have the human touch sometimes it does help. And having a trustworthy person to be able to say, hey, I wasn't doing so okay today or yesterday. You know, like, do you have any words for me? You know? And that's a humbling feeling to do that, but sometimes you need to be able to do that with somebody in life. And that's why that's why some of us go through so much stuff, because we're supposed to be able to coach someone else, right? And help them process their stuff, because we have to process ours. We have to feel what we're feeling. And if you're faking it, you're not really feeling it. It's like you're feeling it and then you're covering it up. So it's like, okay, no, I'm really feeling this. But sometimes you've had to go to work and you don't feel great. You're like, all right, so I've done this before. People have asked me, so, hey, how are you? And I'm having not a great day. So I might say, I'm here, you know, like, I made it here. And some people get it when I have said that. Like, I understand, like, yeah, we're all here, right?
Mhm.
Some people might be like, oh, okay, well, have a good day, like that, right? But some people get it that have known you, like, good, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you showed up, because they know you're already going through something. And instead of faking and just saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm fine. And when you're not, it's sort of like, why lie to yourself and to others? But, I'm here, or I'm still blessed, but today's a little rough day. You can't necessarily say that to everybody, especially not at work situations. Everybody can't handle that, and that's not everybody's business, right?
Mhm.
But everything is not necessarily fine,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of okay not to be fine sometimes, but what am I going to do about it? So, what I've tried to do, like, it was like a few days ago, like, I don't know if it was last week or like some day earlier in the week. And I was like, so much was going on. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next about this one scenario.
Mhm.
And I was like, it was a lot. So by the end of the day, I just was like, you know what? Let me find something funny on TV and like watch that, because I need to get my mind off of this, right? So I did, and I was cracking up by the end of the thing, and it helped me to feel lighter hearted. And then I just had to pray to God, like, I need you to take this off of me. It's heavy right now. I
Mhm.
need you to make a way for me with this particular situation, because I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, right? And so I had to do that so I could get some rest. I had to do that so my mind wouldn't be so heavy. Um, and it literally helped. But I'm telling you, laughter is like medicine. And sometimes, like, watch stuff and just crack up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I watched what was the guy's name? I watched some stand-up comic, and it was like on Netflix or Peacock or something. And I was like, what are the what are the apps? And I was like, oh, it was so good. And then another one came on, and like sort of kept running, like right after the one ended, another one came on, and I was cracking up. And I just felt so much lighter than before that. And I was like, laughter, it can be really like medicine when you just let it out. It just like, ha
Yeah.
ha ha, and it's really genuine. It's like, man, I didn't know I needed that. right? But I did. And
Mhm.
so those are things that I do to cope. It's just like I gotta keep it real. Sometimes things get heavy in life, and I'm like, I don't want to stay down. I
Yeah.
don't want to be in that dark place. I've been there before. And I think
It's
it's a
triggering yourself to get out of that state of mind or that state of depression, right? And so when you do that, it helps you to, oh, okay, there, I can switch. Because sometimes switching on our own is more challenging and you're doing something to get you out of it. Because if not, we can get stuck. We can stay stuck in that space forever and ever, months, years. Ooh,
And the stuck feeling is something I do not like. At least if you're moving forward, you feel like something is going to come of what you're doing, right? But if you're stuck, you're suspended in air. I've literally dealt with that when I was went to Costa Rica in December. We did these zip lines, me and the group, because I was on a retreat. So everybody has to go by themselves down the zip line, but mine got stuck. And thank God I had known some Spanish, right? Because I had really been working on my Spanish this last year. And I got stuck and I'm suspended in the air and we were high up. So I was okay with the zip line just going. But that stuck feeling, oh no. I was like, ayúdame, señor, señor, ayúdame, por favor, hurry, rápido. Because that means, Mr. Like, help me down. Like, I was like, ahora mismo, right now. Like, I need your help. Because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. How about if the line just decides to drop me? I'm, I wasn't scared before that. But the feeling of being stuck was scarier than me moving forward. And I like in life, it just felt like it was a parallel to life. Like being stuck in life is the same way. You're not moving forward. You're not moving in a direction to help yourself, help
yeah.
anybody else. You're not moving backwards. You're just suspended in wherever you are. And sometimes you need to stay still and pause, but I think a pause and being stuck are two different
Oh,
things.
yes. The,
Pause and give yourself that rest.
mm,
You might need the rest, but
yeah.
that stuck, you're like sinking. You're
You
not
know what's
going.
scarier is the people or individuals who have no idea that they are stuck.
Yeah,
And
that's
they think
scary.
that they're okay and they're moving forward.
And you're not. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I learned something that day about myself.
That's so
And
beautiful.
I was like, I didn't plan on it, but I was like, I know I'm going to learn lessons here that weren't supposed to be lessons. So it was like 11 zip lines. It wasn't just one.
Wow.
So I went through 5 or 6 of them already that went smoothly. So then when I got to that one, I got stuck. I was like, oh, what the heck? Then the next one, I got stuck. I waited I waited like at the little thing once they got me because the first guy came out. He came to reel me in. I waited for a little bit. Then I got went to the next zip line. It was nobody that could come and get me. It was no way down. You had to go to the next zip line. So I did and I got stuck again. I was like, oh my gosh. So then this lady came out and got me because I was like, what the heck? I just went through that. So then I'm freaking out again and I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? So the lady, she was a boss. And I was like, look, I had to use my Spanish. I was speaking, but I was like, I needed help. And it was like crawl back, but I didn't feel confident enough to do the crawling back on my own. I wasn't extremely far, but I was far enough that I needed some help. So it taught me about sometimes when you need help when you're stuck and how you should reach out to the right sources to get help. And everybody can't help you, right? You have to know who to ask and who to call on because everybody is not an expert at that particular thing that you're going through. But it's sometimes it's like you got to keep it real with yourself. When do you need help? Sometimes you do, and when you ask for it, is it from the right source, right? So that was a lesson in and of itself.
Hmm.
Then I got stuck one more time. I couldn't believe it either. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is it happening? And it would be right at the end. So I stayed there where the lady helped me, right at the end. I stayed there, waited for a while. Then I got myself together. A few people had passed me, whatever. I was like, I'm just going to stay here for a little bit. They said there's no way down. Maybe at the next one. Okay, so I went and I got stuck. That next time I said, oh, I'm not asking for help anymore. This is my third time stuck. I climbed back like a boss because I said, okay, I saw this done 2 times before. Now I'm stuck again, but I'm getting myself unstuck. I'm not going to wait for the other help, right? Because I had seen it done. I didn't feel like I wanted to stay there. That was the hard part, just staying there. So I crawled back on my own and got to the end because the guy was like, do you want me to come, or like, can you do it? And I just started doing it. I was like, I got it, I got it. So I crawled back, and then they said, do you want to go on? It was like two more left, and I had to decide because they said a buggy could come up and get me up the hill. The other ones didn't have a way for them to come up. And I said, at first I was like, I want to finish, but then I was like, nope, I think 3 times enough of being stuck, and I don't want to get stuck again. So I just was like, yeah, they can come and get me. I felt like I had enough experience. I had just done like 9 zip lines. It wasn't like I did one. So what it taught me was that when you ask for help and then you get the help that you need, what did you learn from the help? And then how could you help yourself that next time? So, what I did that next time, I helped myself, and it taught me something about myself. Like, yeah, you don't always have to stay stuck. And sometimes you can reach out, but sometimes you can help yourself from the stuff that you learned. And so it just was like a whole entire lesson, and I didn't plan on getting it, right? I'm like, I'm going zip lining. I didn't plan on having a lesson for today, but getting unstuck is so important. And then moving forward with the tools that you have to be successful in life. That's what I learned that day. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing what you learned because those lessons are valuable, and just sharing it in that kind of perspective is really helpful because it helps people see it in their own situation instead of, oh, my life is just this. Because usually the majority of the time we're just so stuck in the situation. Learning how to pull out and be the observer of the situation really helps a lot. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea what was going to happen. Then I had I my horse situation. We went horseback riding. That was a whole nother thing, and how my lesson was to hold on, hold on tight, because my horse decided. Okay, at first he wanted to walk slow, and then, ooh, my little light went out. At first, he wanted to walk slow, and then I was like trying to tell him go faster, but that didn't work, right? So I was like rapido, rapido, right? He didn't do it. He started walking in slow motion, right? I'm like, so I got a horse that has jokes. He has a sense of humor. Then the guy that works there did this little noise like or something, right? My horse starts taking off. I was like, what the heck? So the guy, the instructor said, squeeze your legs. Like you need to like squeeze the horse and then like stand up and like hold on. So he says all that really fast, right? So because the horse is taking off, the guy's behind us. And so I like hold on to the little rein thing, like it's like a rope, and then the thing in the middle on the saddle. I held it so tight. My nails were popping for like a whole week. It was like boing, boing, boing. Every day one was popping off because I squeezed that thing so hard. And I just stood up. I did. He was like trotting. He was going faster, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" At first, I'm like all like this. Didn't know what I was doing. And the guy told me, then I squeezed my thighs and I stood up and I was like, going with it. And I learned how to have more control, even though it was a chaotic situation. Like
Mm,
I didn't plan for the horse to go that fast, but because it did, it was like, in the moment, what are you going to do? Right. So instead of me bouncing all around and about to fall off, I said, I'm not falling off of this horse. So I was holding on and I listened to what the guy said and I did it and it worked. It helped me to have more control and not to be fearful, but to gain more control in the moment. And so it was like these little nuggets of lessons. I was like, okay, come on, lesson. But it helped me to have more self-control in a chaotic situation because I really didn't expect that. So that was good too. Yeah.
wow. Really good. All these experiences that we learn from and these retreats and these seminars and all that stuff can be very helpful. So, wow, thank you for sharing.
Hmm. Yeah. Did you have any specific other questions for me um about my journey or anything that I didn't share in my story?
Um, no, I don't really have a question regarding anything in your story. The only thing that I would have a question for you is if you were to share something with the world, what would that be?
Hmm. Like just anything?
Anything, any lesson, any wisdom, anything, or any whatever.
Okay, so I have a motto, and my motto for years has been quitting is not an option. Um, the reason why I chose that is because I've had many ups and downs, many trials, tribulations, many hardships, a lot of pain, but I've had a lot of joy too. And I feel like I wouldn't have gotten to the joy spots or to the happy spots or to the great moments if I didn't get through the storms, if I didn't go through the puddles, if I didn't get past the hurt or past the pain. So the one thing that remains is not quitting. And I would tell anyone not to quit on yourself because in life there's going to be some rough roads or rough moments, but if you don't hang in there past the rough moments, you don't get to the ooey gooey good stuff, you know what I mean?
Mm,
And everybody needs the ooey gooey good stuff at some point in time, right? And so you have to think, okay, let me keep going to get past this storm or to get past this pain. Some things never go away,
mm.
but when you don't quit, then you get to see some of the rainbows after the rain. So yeah, that's what I would share.
Thank you. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with regards to where you're from? Because we totally skipped that.
Well, I'm American. I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. And that's like way up north, so I'm considered a Yankee.
Wow.
But yeah, so I moved from there when I was about 6. So then I moved to Maryland as a teenager. So I kind of well, I grew up mostly in Philadelphia, and that's where more of my roots were. And so then I was in the army, so I moved with the army also. I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and I was also in Camp Carroll in South Korea. And yeah, and I was stationed with the reserves. I was in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. That's when I first came in. And what else? about where I'm from. That's basically
You've
about
been
where I'm
everywhere, pretty
I
much.
around, but I consider myself a city girl. Like I grew up around fast cars and buses and just city life. But I've also lived in the suburbs, so I feel like I'm more well rounded because of me moving, and I was able to travel as a young adult, and even as I've gotten older. So it's opened my mind to traveling. When I was younger, I was like, why can't we just stay at one place? you know, but things happen. So yeah.
Awesome. So you're in Maryland right now, and I'm in
Yeah.
Houston or Sugar Land, Texas. So we met each other through Missing Pieces, and it was not even, it was from, what is it? A job, what is it? A volunteer
Yeah.
posting.
Mhm.
And we're like, how, where are you from? What are you? So we got to be able to connect through a common, a common loss, a common commonality. It's not something to be proud of, yet at the same time, it helps connect us to really amazing individuals that are all the way in Maryland and I'm in Texas. So that's what I wanted to highlight is that the fact that because we're doing the hard work and we're volunteering, it allows us to connect with so many amazing people. And that's why I really, there's a piece of me that just keeps on wanting to give back and share about Missing Pieces support group. So, and so grateful that you're part of it too. So.
Yes. I mean, when I first read it, I was like, no, there's not a group like this. I need to be a part of this. I think it's very important for people to have support. And I feel like it needs to be more things available for people with this particular loss, because there's so many people grieving inside and feeling like they can't share because it's a shame that's attached to it. you know some people have had multiple losses, but even just the one, some people feel like I didn't do it, I didn't complete it, or I failed. And that's not really the truth. Something happened, but it doesn't mean that it was necessarily your fault. There's a lot of different causes of it, but it does bring together a lot of different people that you wouldn't know dealt with it until you bring it up. So I appreciate Missing Pieces support group even existing. I, I couldn't pass it by when I saw it. I was like, wait a minute. It just like seemed like it yelled at me, girl. Hey, girl, wait, you need to be over here. It felt like it yelled at me, and I was like, hey, I need to be a part of this because I need to support other people that are going through this particular type of thing, especially when it was along the lines of I'm I was becoming a coach for people that are dealing with grief and stress, to help them overcome and then still reach their attainable goals with joy.
Mhm.
So that's still along the same lines of my own, you know, statement. You know, my why statement. So
Yeah, I
it,
wanted to share with everyone that, the specific unique thing about you and myself, right, as a coach is that we specifically work with individuals who have gone through losses and we're helping to essentially rehabilitate them to this new norm for them because it's a new norm that they get to accept. And learning to accept that is like a big challenge for a lot of people. And so I really wanted to highlight that and help people realize that us as a coach, we're unique in that specific way is that we help people heal and grow at the same time. And maybe we're better equipped to help those individuals as opposed to another kind of coach who's just, personal or professional development coach. And
right.
so ours is grief sensitive, PTSD sensitive, right? And so I really educate and you educate your clients in that way of, hey, this is what you're going through. Let's come to terms with that and let's slowly rehabilitate and take it step by step. And so I really wanted to share that with everyone and let them know that that's what makes you unique. That's what makes me unique as coaches because we've been through shit.
Hello. I mean, and a lot of times people don't want to share with counselors or coaches because they think they're not going to understand what
Which
I've
is
been through.
true because they don't understand. And that's why I wanted to have this podcast because it's to share unique stories and individuals like yourself and really highlight and help people understand the types of coaches or help that they can seek out and who to seek out because not everybody's going to be the right match for you.
Right. Yeah, for me, I'm trying to get some new things together to launch. I hope to have groups and individuals, like do one-on-ones and group sessions. And so in the near future, I hope that I can make it available for lots of people and that they will be able to gain some things from some of my wisdom and some of the things I've been through, but deal with them, where they're at, because everybody's not at the same stage, at the same, even the same stage of grief. Everybody's not at the same stage, but then people have different layers and levels of loss because
Yes.
when you get a divorce, there's a level of loss, that you're experiencing. It's not necessarily a death, but it's a loss, you
It's
know.
a huge, it's a huge one.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of different, like even friendships, that can be a loss, parents, that can be a loss, but then there's stress, even with job loss,
Even
it's so
retirement
many
time.
things. Mhm.
People who are going into retirement, there's another kind of loss. People
Yeah,
who, yeah, there's so many kinds of losses that it's the nuance of coaching through that is the beauty of what we provide as coaches, different from other coaches. And so, yes, I wanted to share that, and our time is coming to an end, and I'm so grateful that you got to come on to Maliciously Benevolent. It's a funny name
thank you for
because
having me.
yeah, we really love having you here. And if you ever want to come on again, let us know anything else that you'd like to share. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, so I just want to say that anybody that wants to find me, I have my website. It's Monique, Monique, Lynn, Lyn dash ELLE, MoniqueLynelle.com. And it has links to my books. I have a book called Blessed in the Midst of the Storm. I have a teen's guide to succeed in high school. And I have my journey at 30. They're all on there. And I have music that's out there. I need to put new links there, but I have stuff. If you can, I do a Monday motivation and it's on my blog. So I'm going to put a link to that. It's called Monique Lynelle's Living with a Purpose. So it's MLLWAP.blogspot.com. So I'll try to make sure I put a link to those on my website so that people can see that, and then the other programs that I have will be available
Okay,
very
well,
soon.
I'll get all the links from you so that way I can put it onto the post for the podcast, and then that way
So,
people can get on it. Yeah, that way. And so I'll
okay.
just get all that from you later.